Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar. I'll just wait a couple more seconds for more people to join. Great, okay, so I see we've got quite a number of you now. So the point of this webinar is we did want to be very efficient and give you this information quickly. So I'll just go ahead and make a start and people can catch up. So this event is for people who are interested in applying to the Executive Diploma. And we're going to be talking about the application process, as well as the scholarship process. But this is regardless of which executive diploma you're interested in, whether it's global business or AI for business. We are talking about the executive diplomas broadly, so all of this information will be relevant to you. So just to let you know, we are recording the session. If you do have to drop off at any point, you will receive the recording about a week after the event. So don't worry if you do have to drop off. And again, just to mention, I think chat might be disabled, but if you do have any questions, please don't use the chat box. Please put them in the Q&A. So just to quickly talk about the agenda for the next 20-30 minutes, I'll just start off by introducing the panel. I'll then hand over to my colleague Alex, who will talk about the application process. I'll then talk about the scholarships we have and what you need to do to be considered. That should all take about 20 minutes. And if you then have to drop off, no worries. But if you do want to stick around, we will have a 10-minute Q&A at the end. Alex, can you go to the next slide? Thanks. So just to introduce ourselves, my name is Pagan and I work in the recruitment team for the executive diplomas. I'm joined by Alex McNamara, who is our wonderful senior admissions advisor. He's worked at the school for a number of years, so he's a real expert when it comes to knowing what the admissions committee are looking for. So his session should be very helpful. And last but not least, I'm also joined by Marta, who works in the recruitment team with me, and she'll be helping facilitate some of the questions at the end. So with that said, I think we're ready to begin. So over to Alex, who will talk to you about the application process.
Thanks, Pagan. Hi, everybody. As Pagan said, my name's Alex McNamara. I'm a senior admissions advisor here at the school. And I'm just going to spend the next 10 minutes running through the application process, what our admissions committee will look for, what you will need to submit, and hopefully demystify a few things. So I think a good starting place, as you'll see on my slide here, is our basic admissions requirements. So we require at least 5 years of relevant work experience. This is because you will learn as much from your network and your classmates as you will do from the faculty. The average age and average work experience is usually quite a bit higher than that on our diplomas, but this is just a minimum to demonstrate that our candidates will have full-time experience after their degree. We look for an upper second class or a 2-1 undergraduate degree or equivalent. Now, this is obviously a UK grading. There's lots of international equivalency resources available, including from Oxford University, that you can look at. Now, if you have a degree and you feel like you might not meet this, however, you have strong work experience that might demonstrate that you can meet the academic rigor of the program, then you'd still be welcome to apply. The same can be said as well if you hold a professional qualification. And then finally, English language proficiency. The program is taught and assessed entirely in English, so we need to make sure that all of our students are able to communicate with each other and understand the content that's being delivered. So I'm going to go through this now one by one into each section. So firstly, the academic requirement. How do we assess that? So our admissions committee will look at your transcripts for each degree that you have completed. You'll see on the right-hand side a photograph of a sample transcript. The transcript will show your name, the degree you studied, and also the modules you've studied and grades you've achieved in each. These need to be certifiably translated into English if the university that you've graduated from has not provided them in English. A certifiable translation can be found fairly easily online. And our admissions committee will want to review this for all of the degrees, as I say. So any bachelor's degree, master's degree or doctorate, you'll need to provide these. It can take some time if you need to order them from the university you graduated from to receive them. So if you don't have them, they're not stored away somewhere, you can order them. They'll usually be delivered to you electronically or via mail. So because your application won't be reviewed until you've received these, it's a good idea to order them as soon as possible to make sure there's no delay. And again, this is just to make sure that you're going to be able to keep up with the academic aspects of the program. So secondly, work experience. So we require that minimum of 5 years, and obviously that can be demonstrated by providing a CV. This will be a requirement, you'll have to provide one. And we suggest you provide a concise CV. We provide a template on the application form so you can see the kind of thing we're looking for. But it will generally be 1 to 2 pages, maybe a little bit longer if necessary, and just outline each role you've held, the type of responsibilities and achievements you've had at each, maybe 2 or 3 bullet points for each role, a little bit more if it's a bigger role you've been at longer or you're currently at. And just to detail how you've progressed in your career from completing your degree, if you have, to the current role you're in. And we can really then get a sense of the depth of your experience. Make sure you acknowledge any gaps or any questions or flags that may be raised from your CV. We understand that people will take a break at certain points in their career or may need to. So just make sure that that's addressed and there's not any question marks. And then you can include some more detail within the application form. So firstly, there's an essay, which I'll talk about a bit later. And also there's a question around your current roles and responsibilities, so that the admissions committee can then see the type of impact that you're having in your workplace and the type of contributions you would make to the class as well. So next is references, and that really ties in with the work experience requirement. We ask for a minimum of 2 references. At least one should be a professional referee, but actually, realistically, we would expect and encourage most candidates to submit 2 professional references. It should be someone who knows you well, professionally. So it shouldn't be a family member or a friend. It shouldn't be someone who works for you. Some candidates may think that they'll go and ask their CV for a reference, their CEO for a reference, and their CEO may not know them very well. So while it would be obviously impressive to have that reference, it may only be a couple of lines and we don't learn very much. So really what the admissions committee is looking to learn from references is your communication style, your teamwork, how your colleagues perceive you, and again, that impact you're having in the workplace. So it would be sensible to consider someone like your line manager, if you're employed, or a previous line manager as well, maybe a client if you own your own business, or another senior colleague, but just someone who's really going to put the time in to provide enough detail that we can get to know you a bit better. All referees will be contacted directly by us. We ask you provide their professional email address, and as soon as you provide those details in the application form, they will be contacted by us directly with an easy link to submit their reference. Now, you can submit your application without the references having been submitted, as long as you've entered the details, but your application won't be reviewed until we've received those references. So it would make sense to just make sure your referee is expecting our email and is prepared to submit the reference. So maybe enter this as one of the first things you do, because you can go straight to the recommendations page, enter their details, and we'll contact them, and then hopefully they should follow fairly soon after and prevent any delay in your application. English proficiency. So I discussed this a little bit earlier, and this is an important part of the application for any candidate who is not a citizen of an English-speaking country as determined by the UK government. So if that is the case, you will find that an English ability section will show on the application form. There's 3 ways you can demonstrate this. One is by completing an English language test, such as an IELTS or a TOEFL that meets our minimum requirements. Or you can apply for a waiver on one of 2 bases. So I'm going to run through both, but the first one I'll run through quite quickly, because the first one is having completed a degree taught full-time in English, completed within the last 2 years. That's a university requirement. Because most of our candidates will have completed their degree longer than 2 years ago, most candidates are not eligible for that waiver. So most candidates applying for a waiver will apply on the basis of having substantial work experience in English, in a majority English-speaking environment. To apply for that waiver, you will select that you are doing so on the English ability page. And then there's some guidance on the waiver that you'll need to submit. And that is to address where in your workplace and in your professional background you use English, addressing things like speaking, writing, listening, and reading. So the waiver should be maybe up to 1 page. There's no kind of template for what you should provide, but it should be written by you. It should be your perspective on your English and where you use it. And then our admissions committee can assess that just to make sure that you're going to be comfortable enough with English in the classroom environment and that we're not setting anybody up to fail. So again, linking to that would be the essays. We ask all candidates to submit 2 essays. They should be 500 words, and I've listed the essay questions on each. You'll see question 1 and 2 there. Pay close attention to the word count for these. Question 1 is almost a personal statement. Why you want to study the diploma, what your expectations for the course, what your motivations for the course are, and just to make sure you've really considered what the programme will offer you and what you want to take from it. The second one is to outline your main achievements in your current position. Again, linking to the work experience and the depth of your experience and what you will offer in classroom conversations and in that network of your classmates. So, as I say, pay close attention to the word count. We suggest they are 500 words. If you're submitting an essay shorter than that, then you are disadvantaging yourself because our admissions committee are not learning as much about you from those essays. Do not use AI or plagiarism. We will run the essays through AI detection and anti-plagiarism software. So make sure that you are referencing any sources that you're using, and just make sure you're giving us the opportunity to get to know you better. Don't use an AI to write the essay because we don't learn anything about you from that. These essays are both uploaded directly to your application as Word documents or PDFs. And as I say, our admissions committee will read these as well. They may be assessing your English proficiency within those essays. So consider it like an academic submission you might make as part of the programme. So that's just a very quick run through of our application process. I'm now going to hand back to Pagan, who's going to talk a little bit more about scholarships and the rest of the process and timelines.
Thanks, Alex. That was great. Really informative, and I'm sure people on the call will be a lot more clued in, hopefully, now on what they need to do to submit a strong application. So I'm going to now talk about scholarships and what you need to do to be considered. We have a number of scholarships available, but before I dive into each of those, I'll just give you some key facts now. So if you do want to be considered for our scholarships, you need to submit your application by the 1st of July. Our scholarships are very competitive, and I'm not saying that to deter anyone from applying. Of course, if you are eligible, please do submit an application. I'm saying this more so that to kind of manage your expectations. Don't assume you will get a scholarship, and don't bank on it either, because they are very competitive. Our scholarships range from about 20 to 50% of the tuition fee. Unfortunately, we don't have any full scholarships. So with those 2 things in mind, do make sure you explore all avenues for funding. Even if you get a scholarship, you would need to cover the remaining 50%, either through a bank loan or self-funding, or perhaps you talk to your employer and see if they can give you some funding. So just, don't put all of your eggs in one basket, and start your search early. Next slide, please, Alex. So we have a couple of scholarships where there's quite minimal effort needed on your part, which is the good news. So first of all, we have the Really Scholarship. So as long as you apply by the 1st of July deadline, everyone will be considered. So we have 1 award per diploma programme. So, for each of the diplomas, global business, organisational leadership, there is 1 award per cohort. Each of them are 50%. And this is based entirely on academic performance and previous achievement. Next up, we have the Oxford Community Scholarship. So we have up to 3 awards per diploma, and they are 20% of the fees. So this scholarship is for anyone who has either completed a degree at the university or a member of the Oxford Said Alumni Network, which used to be called the Oxford Business Alumni Network. So if you do have a membership number, you do have membership, then you are eligible. And also this is open to employees of the university. There's no essay required for this, but there will be a section in the application form where you will need to confirm whether you meet this criteria. And then, like most of our scholarships, this is based on academic performance, professional achievement, and interpersonal or leadership skills. Next slide, please. So in terms of the scholarships where you'll need to write an essay to be considered, I'll start off talking about the Directors Award. So this is open to everyone. It doesn't matter your gender, where you're from. It's open to everyone who applies by the July 1st deadline. And we have up to 3 awards per diploma, ranging up to 50% of the fees. And to be considered for this, you need to submit a 500-word essay where you discuss how your background will enhance the diversity of the class and how by doing this programme, it will lead to some positive change either in your sector or your country or your region. And again, like with most of the scholarships, we will also look at any academic or professional achievement or potential. We also have a couple of scholarships which are specifically for women. So first of all, we have the General Scholarship for Women. This is open to any females, regardless of where you're from in the world. And each of those awards are, so that we have 2 awards per diploma, and each of them are worth 50% of the fees. So to be considered for this one, you need to submit a 500-word essay talking about how you meet the eligibility criteria. So the eligibility for this, we look at any strong academic achievement or any really significant professional experience, in particular leadership experience or potential. We also look for women who have a desire to be a role model or an ambassador for the school and for the programme. So what my top tip here would be is I've seen a lot of scholarship essays in the past which address the first 2 points where people talk about their professional achievements, but they kind of glaze over the last 2 points and how they would give back to the community. And I think that's a really important part of the scholarship essay. So make sure you do address all of those points. And then finally, we have the Mark LePage Scholarship. This is specifically for women who reside in Africa. That's an important thing to note. It's not for African women per se. So if you, you're from Nigeria, but you've lived in the UK or abroad for many years, unfortunately, you wouldn't be considered. This is for women who live in Africa now and who are doing work which actively contributes to the development of the continent. So for this one, we actually just have the 1 award across the whole diploma portfolio. But preference is given to women on the financial strategy programme. And to be considered for this, you need to submit a 500-word essay. Again, talking about your academic achievement, that one comes up a lot. And also, you just need to provide some examples and evidence of how you have contributed to Africa's development and how you wish to continue doing that. And again, that's, I think, another really key point. If you're using this diploma because you want to try and pivot countries, pivot to move to the UK, Unfortunately, you wouldn't really be a strong contender because we're looking for people who want to continue doing that work, which contributes to Africa's success. So you will need to kind of talk about how you are going to do that in your essay. So talking just quickly about sort of timelines, I've already mentioned the deadline to apply is the 1st of July. You can obviously apply before then, and depending on when you apply, you can expect a decision on your application within about 4 to 6 weeks. The scholarship decisions take a little bit longer to come out because we have to wait until the July 1st deadline has passed so that we can review everyone's scholarship applications at the same time and sort of make comparisons and, you know, choose the kind of strongest contender. So scholarship decisions should be announced by the end of August, but hopefully sooner. You know, we're sort of aiming for some time in August. Next slide, please. Okay, so that takes us to the end of the listening section in terms of the scholarship application stuff. I just wanted to quickly plug some events that we've got coming up. So our next one is the Open Evening on the 5th of June. If you are based in the UK or if you are going to be travelling to the UK that week, please do sign up for our Open Evening. It's going to be a really fun event in the school where, you know, you'll get a tour of the building, we'll have a taster lecture, we will have current students and past alumni there who you can talk to and learn about their experiences of the programme. We've got the QR code there on the screen if you want to take a picture of that to sign up, or Marta has just posted the links in the chat. Second of all, we have a webinar on the 20th of June, which is all about how doing the diploma can empower women. So we're going to have a panel of previous diploma students, female students, talking about how the programme helped elevate their career and how they managed to balance the programme alongside their, you know, busy lives, their family lives. So again, that should be a really good webinar to come to. Okay, so that takes us to the end of the listening portion. If you do have to drop off, no worries at all. Like I said, the recording will be sent out to you probably within the next week. We've just got about 7 minutes left for some questions, and I see that we've had some questions come in. I might start with this one and pose it to you, Alex, if that's okay. This question is about qualifications and, you know, apart from academic degree, would it be useful to add any relevant certifications in your application, like a project management professional course?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you do have any professional qualifications, then please do add them to your application. You'll find that there's a section on the application specifically for professional qualifications. And the benefit of providing those is a few things. Firstly, it shows, again, your academic ability, your academic background. It shows your expertise. It shows, in some cases, that you may have been studying alongside a job while working full-time. Which is obviously beneficial because the diploma will be the same thing in most cases. So absolutely, go ahead and add any professional qualifications to your application.
Thanks, Alex. Just a question here about references. This is an interesting one. Is there any benefit in getting 2 different references from 2 different organisations? Will it kind of penalise somebody if both of their references come from the same organisation?
No, it wouldn't penalise you. It's really up to you, I think, as to who you would like to select as your referee. If you want to have 2 referees from the same organisation, that's absolutely fine. I think the main thing to consider, kind of the most valuable reference will normally be for someone who's in employment, maybe their line manager that's current and in their current organisation. And then it's up to you if you picked another one from your current organisation or a previous organisation. obviously, if you pick two from the same organisation, they may have fairly similar perspectives on your achievements, and you may then choose to pick one from a previous organisation so they can talk about what you've achieved there. But ultimately, it's just an opportunity for us to get to know you better and get someone else's perspective who knows you well on, you know, how you'll be in the class and what kind of impact you've made within that organisation. So there's no preference there really. I would say one from your current organisation and then select one that you think will provide a detailed reference.
Great, thanks. Lots of questions coming in about the application, as expected. This person here, they've said that they're about to start a new job, so they can't necessarily talk about the achievements they've got in their current position. Is it okay in that example to talk about previous achievements?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's sensible. You know, you're obviously not going to have made much of an impact yet in the new role, so it'd be best to talk about your previous one. And again, for references there as well, it might be that you select two references from the previous organisation because the new organisation won't know you very well. And our admissions committee will review your whole application holistically, so they'll have looked at your CV and understand why you may be talking about the previous organisation. So that's fine.
There's one question here. Somebody's just asking about what the general deadline for application is. I'll just briefly take that one. It does vary a little bit depending on what executive diploma you're applying to. I know that the deadline for diploma in AI and the online DIPSI, strategy and innovation, sorry, we call it DIPSI internally, the online strategy and innovation, they have longer deadlines. Realistically, we will be accepting applications until at least November. Obviously, if you want to be considered for scholarships, you do have to apply by July 1st. What I would say is, though, if you are already thinking about it now, don't wait until November, December to apply. Do apply early, just because then you can start getting organised, you know, with your travel and your accommodation. But yes, in theory, you can apply up until November. Okay, let's take a look at what else we have. So there's a question here about transcripts. Somebody is in the process of completing a degree now. What's the process there, Alex, in terms of uploading their transcript? Just an interim one?
Exactly, yeah. So you should have access to an online portal that will show your grades to date, and you can just take a screenshot of that and upload it. Before you, in that situation, before you started the program, we would probably expect to see a final transcript. We may make that a condition of an offer if you're made one. But in the interim, you can just upload a screenshot of the grades you have to date.
Great, thanks. Okay, here's an interesting question. I'm not sure if we're really allowed to share this information, but somebody's asked how many people applied last year versus how many people get accepted. Do we have are we allowed to provide that information?
It's a good question, and it's one that we always answer fairly vaguely. We don't publish that information, but the one thing I would say is all applications are reviewed individually. You can see what our admissions requirements are. We've kind of spoken through what we'd be expecting you to submit. So when our admissions committee reviews an application, they'll never be looking at kind of a quota or a percentage of applications they'll accept or reject. They'll always review each individual application on its own merits. So it's not really relevant in terms of how likely you are to be successful. How likely you are to be successful is based on how well you meet that admissions criteria and how strong your application is, kind of how much time you're putting into your essays and what have you.
Very good answer. I've just noticed the time, so we have about 1 minute left. Alex, looking down at the Q&As, are there any questions that really stand out to you that would be helpful for a number of people that we might just finish off with?
Yeah. So I can see when it mentions the application portal only allows one certification to be uploaded. So that's not the case actually. So on the qualifications section, when you press add new, you'll be asked to type in the details of that qualification. So kind of the university you studied at, the dates that you studied there. And then for each qualification you input, you'll be asked to upload a transcript for each. Professional qualifications, there is one upload slot, but it allows you to upload multiple qualifications if you've got more than one. And the follow-up question there is there a separate deadline for references? So yes, we'd expect you to submit your application by the 1st of July to be considered for that scholarship deadline. And then we'll allow approximately a week after that for anything to follow, like references. So as I said before, you can input the details of your referee, we'll contact them, but they don't have to have submitted their reference for you to submit your application. That can follow around a week after.
Great, thanks. We have run out of time, but I'm just going to quickly take this last question because I think this is something we didn't quite clarify. Somebody's asked about whether the scholarship deadline is different to the application deadline. So just to clarify, it is all the same application. So when you apply for the diploma, if you want to be considered for scholarships, it's within that programme application that you provide your scholarship essays. So it's all one application. There's no sort of separate application process. Right, I'm so sorry because I can see there are more questions, but we have run out of time. If anyone would like to take this offline, do feel free to contact me. I'll put my email quickly in the chat so you can see. I think it was also on the when you registered, you would have seen it. But do reach out to me and the rest of the team, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. I just want to say a huge thank you to Alex and Marta for helping me with this webinar, and a huge thank you to all of you who attended for asking such engaging, great questions. Really, really hope to see as many applications as possible from you all. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day and speak soon.